The grand hall of the Galactic court shimmered with gold light, but the air inside felt heavy, almost suffocating. Tall alien banners swayed in the artificial breeze, each marked with strange symbols from dozens of worlds. Rows of alien nobles sat in silence, their colorful eyes fixed on the center stage. At the very front stood a single figure, the princess of the High Celestial Empire. She was dressed in silver silk that caught every glimmer of light. Her head was bowed slightly, and over her face rested the thing that haunted every mind in that room, a mask made of shining metal, smooth and flawless, hiding every feature. No one alive had seen the princess's face, not her people, not her guards, not even the elders of her own family. From the moment she was born, the mask had never been removed in public. Legends surrounded it, dark, twisted legends. Some said her face was cursed, that one glance could drive a mind to madness. Others whispered that her beauty was so dangerous, so unnatural, that anyone who saw her would lose control, becoming nothing more than her slave. Now was the bonding ceremony, a sacred ritual that would decide her future and the future of the empire. It was tradition that the princess choose a life partner during the Great Bond, an ancient pact where two souls were joined forever. But there was a rule, a dangerous rule. The one who wished to bond with her must agree without ever seeing her face. Only after accepting would the mask be removed. No one dared. Alien after alien had come forward in years past, their ambition burning bright. But when the moment came, fear swallowed them whole. They would glance at the mask and step back. Some fainted before they could speak. Others walked away without a word. The curse, the stories, the danger, it was too much. Today was no different. The hall was full, but the air was thick with hesitation. The princess stood silent, waiting for a voice to break the stillness. But none came. The High Chancellor, a tall insectoid creature with silver eyes, raised his claw and called out, "Who among you will claim the honor of bonding with the celestial princess?" Silence. The nobles glanced at one another, muttering in low, nervous tones. Some avoided looking at the stage entirely. The princess did not move. The hall seemed frozen in time. Then footsteps. They were slow, steady, and carried an unfamiliar weight. Heads turned, whispers rippled across the hall. A tall figure was walking through the crowd, not rushing, not hesitating. He wore no royal colors, no ceremonial armor, only a dark uniform marked with the insignia of Earth's Interstellar Defense Corps. A human. His name was Commander Elias Kane, though few in the hall knew it. His dark hair was tied back, his jaw set like stone. His boots echoed sharply on the polished floor as he walked straight toward the stage, his gaze locked on the princess. "Is he insane?" A scaled alien muttered from the side. "Humans don't know the curse," another whispered back. "Or maybe he doesn't care." Elias reached the center of the hall and stopped at the bottom of the stairs leading to the princess. His voice was deep, clear, and unshaken. "I accept her." Gasps filled the room. The Chancellor stepped forward quickly, claws twitching. "Human, do you understand what you are saying? You have not seen her face. You know the risks." Elias's eyes didn't move from the princess. "I do." The Chancellor's antennae twitched in disbelief. "Then you are either brave or a fool." Elias allowed himself the faintest smile. "Perhaps both." The princess tilted her head, slightly, as if studying him. For the first time, she spoke. Her voice was soft, almost musical, yet there was an edge to it. "You are not afraid of me?" "No," Elias replied. I've faced worse. Something flickered in her posture. Not anger, not fear, but something else. Curiosity. She descended the stairs slowly, her silver gown flowing like water. She stopped only a few feet from him. "Then you will take the bonding oath now," the Chancellor declared, his voice carrying through the hall. Elias placed his hand over his chest and repeated the ancient words he had been told before the ceremony. They spoke of unity, loyalty, and shared fate. But as he said them, the princess's hidden eyes seemed to watch deeper than his words, as if she were looking into his very soul. When the last word of the oath left his mouth, a low hum filled the hall, the lights dimmed, the masks seemed to catch a strange glow, reflecting patterns that no one could name. The bond had begun. A shiver ran through the crowd. Some turned away, unable to watch. Others leaned forward in grim fascination. The human had done what no alien had dared for generations. The princess extended her hand, her silver glove cold to the touch as Elias took it. Her voice was barely a whisper now. "Then be ready, human, for what you will see cannot be unseen." In that moment, Elias felt something strange, a pulse, not of the heart, but of the mind. It was as if her thoughts brushed against his own, just for a second. A single image flashed in his head, too quick to understand, but it left his chest. Tight and his breath shallow. Whatever was behind that mask, it was not just a face, it was something more, something dangerous. And as the hall watched in silence, the princess stepped closer, the bond drawing them toward the moment everyone feared. The hall's golden light faded from Elias's memory as he stood alone in the waiting chamber. The ceremony was not over. The bonding ritual had only just begun, and soon the mask would come off. The thought should have filled him with dread, but instead, his mind drifted back to the moment he decided to come here. It had started 3 weeks earlier, on a quiet outpost orbiting the star. Aldrich's 4, Elias had been resting after months on the front lines of the Shadow Rift Wars. His body carried scars that told their own stories. A thin burn along his shoulder from plasma fire, a jagged mark across his ribs from shrapnel. War had taught him fear, but it had also taught him to master it. The Galactic Council had summoned him unexpectedly. At first, he thought it was about the war. Instead, they spoke of the princess, they spoke of the ceremony, and they warned him. "You do not understand, human," the High Chancellor had told him then. "Her face is not for mortal eyes. It is not ugliness you fear, it is perfection. Perfection that breaks the mind." Elias remembered leaning back in his chair, watching the insectoid's mandibles twitch. "With respect, Chancellor, I don't believe in curses. I've fought things you can't imagine. If this is about fear, I'm the wrong man to scare." The Chancellor had hissed softly. "This is not bravery. This is foolishness." And yet they had let him come. Perhaps they hoped he would fail like all the others. Perhaps they wanted to watch him break. Now, in the quiet of the chamber, Elias glanced at the ceremonial robes they had given him, deep blue, lined with silver. He wore them reluctantly, feeling the weight of a tradition that was not his own. The door behind him opened with a soft hiss. A figure entered, tall, robed, in crimson, with a face like polished stone. It was Veren, the princess's chief guardian. His voice was like gravel. "Human, you have one last chance to leave before the final bond is sealed." Elias turned, calm. "If I leave, what happens to her?" Veren's stone-like expression didn't change. "She will remain unbound. The empire will fall into political chaos. Many will die." "Then I'm not leaving," Elias said. Varen stepped closer. You think this is noble? You think you can protect her from what she carries? You can't. No one can. I've heard that before, Elias replied evenly. Usually from someone I end up proving wrong. For a long moment, the Guardian just stared at him. Then, without another word, he turned and left. The heavy door ceiling shut behind him. Elias took a slow breath. Whatever was coming, he was ready. Or at least, he told himself he was. The sound of the ceremony drums began, a deep, slow rhythm that echoed through the walls. Elias stepped back into the grand hall. The princess stood where he had left her, motionless, her silver mask catching the flicker of the ceremonial fires. All eyes turned to him. Whispers spread again, but quieter this time. The first step had been taken. The human had not run. The Chancellor's voice carried over the crowd. By ancient law, the suitor who accepts without sight shall be bound in mind and soul to the princess. In this bond, there is no turning back. Elias met the princess's gaze, or what he imagined was her gaze behind the mask. Her voice slipped into his mind without her lips moving. You still have time to walk away. No, Elias thought back. I gave my word. The princess studied him in silence for a moment. Then she stepped forward, holding out a small ceremonial blade. You will bleed for the bond, she said aloud. He took the blade without hesitation. The cut across his palm was sharp and quick. His blood dripped onto the bonding stone between them, its surface glowing faintly as the first drop touched it. The princess pressed her own palm to the blade, letting a thin stream of golden blood flow onto the same stone. When her blood touched his, the glow turned bright, and a strange warmth ran up Elias's arm. It was not pain, it was connection. He felt a flicker of something. Her emotions, faint but real. A guarded sadness. A loneliness buried so deep it was almost part of her bones. For a heartbeat, he wanted to ask her about it. But before he could speak, a shadow passed across the hall. The great doors trembled. A guard rushed in, his armor scorched. Your Highness, the outer gates are under attack. Panic erupted in the crowd. Nobles scattered, guards shouted orders. The Chancellor's mandibles clicked in alarm. The princess did not move. She looked only at Elias. This is not chance, she said quietly. They have come for me, and for you. Elias stepped closer, his voice low but steady. Then they'll find I'm not easy to take. Somewhere above, the sound of explosions shook the air. Dust rained down from the high ceiling. The bonding ceremony was far from over, but now it seemed it would be completed under fire. The princess's masked face tilted toward him again, and though he could not see her eyes, he felt them on him, sharp, searching, as if measuring his soul. You are different from them, she whispered. Perhaps dangerous enough to match me. Elias allowed himself a small grin. We'll find out. And together they turned toward the sound of the coming storm. The hall had turned into a battlefield in minutes. The golden glow from the ceiling was gone, replaced by the flicker of emergency lights. The air smelled of burning metal and fear. Somewhere in the distance, the deep thud of impact echoed again, shaking the floor beneath their feet. Elias kept close to the princess, his hand instinctively near the pistol at his hip. He could feel the stares of alien guards around them, some protective, others doubtful, as if wondering why a human was standing at her side. The Chancellor's voice rang out, sharp and urgent. Seal the inner gates. Keep the princess away. From the windows, But the princess did not run. She moved slowly, with an eerie calm, toward the great steps at the center of the hall. Elias followed, scanning the walls for signs of breach. His instincts told him this was more than a simple attack. "They're not here to conquer," he said, keeping his voice low. "They're here to take you." The princess turned her masked face toward him. "And what will you do, human, if they try?" "Stop them," he replied without hesitation. Her voice slid into his mind again, softer this time, like a thought not meant for the crowd. "You speak as if you've already chosen your fate." "Maybe I have," he thought back. The main doors shuddered violently as something massive struck from outside. Guards rushed forward, bracing them with energy shields. A high-pitched scream of metal filled the air. The crowd panicked, scattering into side corridors. Through the chaos, Elias saw her hand lift slightly, a signal. 2 guards approached, each holding a thin chain with glowing beads. Without a word, they wrapped the chains around Ilias's wrists and the princess's wrists, connecting them together with a soft pulse of light. "What is this?" Elias asked. "The bond must hold through the danger," the princess replied. "If it breaks before the mask is lifted, you will die." She stepped closer now, only a breath away. The silver mask reflected his face, warped and strange in the polished metal. "This close," she murmured. "You can almost feel it, can't you?" Elias wasn't sure what she meant, until he realized he could hear her heartbeat, faint, but steady, as if it were inside his own chest. The bond was growing stronger. He felt her presence in his thoughts now, like a shadow that moved when he did. But before he could speak, the ceiling above them cracked. A burning piece of debris crashed down. Elias reacted instantly, grabbing her and pulling her to the side. The impact sent a shockwave through the floor, knocking others off their feet. She looked at him for a moment, the mask tilting slightly, and for the first time he saw her hesitate. "You risked yourself for me without thought," she said softly. "That's what you do when you're in this together," he replied. A new sound filled the hall, the heavy clang of armored boots. From the far doors, a squad of attackers stormed in, their armor black and jagged, their helmets shaped like snarling beasts. They carried weapons Elias had never seen, each glowing with a sickly green light. The guards engaged them, but Elias could see they were outmatched. He tightened his grip on the princess's hand. "We have to move." They ran down a side passage, the chains between them forcing them to match each other's pace. The sound of battle faded behind them, replaced by the hum of the palace's inner chambers. Finally, they reached a quiet alcove, lit only by the pale blue glow of crystal walls. The princess stopped. "This place is shielded," she said. "We have a moment." Elias scanned the room for threats, but it was empty. A moment for what? Her gloved hand lifted to her mask. "To show you what you've chosen." Elias's pulse quickened. This was it, the moment everyone feared, the reason no one dared. He watched her fingers touch the smooth silver, and for an instant he imagined what could be beneath. Something monstrous, something divine. "You shouldn't," he said quietly, though he wasn't sure why. Her voice was almost a whisper. "You accepted the bond knowing the stories. This is where you find out if they are true." She began to lift the mask, but before the edge cleared her chin, a blast shook the alcove. The crystal wall shattered, and a figure burst through the debris. It was one of the attackers, his armor scorched but his weapon still aimed. Without thinking, Elias pulled the princess behind him, drawing his pistol and firing 2 quick shots. The attacker dropped, but more shadows moved in the broken wall. The princess's mask lowered again. She stepped forward, her voice low. You will see soon enough, human. But first, you must survive. From beyond the breach, the sound of boots grew louder. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon. Then stay behind me, he said, and let's make sure they regret coming here. The chains between them pulsed with light, as if sensing the danger. Somewhere deep inside his mind, he felt her thoughts. Again, sharper this time, colder, yet strangely steady. We fight together, or we fall together. Elias nodded once. Together, then. And as the attackers poured through the breach, human and princess stood side by side, the bond unbroken, the mask still hiding its secret, and the war for both their fates just beginning. Asterisk, the crystal chamber trembled. With every blast from outside, fragments of glowing shards littered the floor, crunching under Ilias's boots as he moved, firing at the black-armored attackers flooding in. Each shot found its mark, but more kept coming, their jagged silhouettes, lit by the eerie green glow of their weapons. The princess stayed close, the chain between their wrists forcing them to move as one. She didn't fight with a weapon, but Elias noticed the way her presence seemed to disrupt the attackers. They hesitated when their eyes met her mask, as if instinctively recoiling from what it represented. Finally, the last soldier dropped, his armor smoking. The room fell silent except for the sound of Elias's breathing. That's the third squad, he said, scanning the breach. They won't stop until they have you. The princess didn't answer. Instead, she walked to the edge of the shattered wall and looked out. Beyond, the alien city was in chaos, flames twisting upward into the night. Ships streaking through the sky, the palaces once bright spires now shadowed by the smoke of war. This is not random, she said quietly. It's them, Elias asked. She turned to him slowly. The Obsidian Order, they are the keepers of a secret, my secret, and they will kill anyone who comes close to learning it. Elias frowned. Then tell me now, no more warnings. What's under that mask? Her gloved fingers traced the edge of the silver, but she did not lift it yet. My face is not cursed the way the stories say. It is not a monster's face. It is worse. Elias raised an eyebrow. Worse than a monster. She stepped closer until he could feel her breath through the mask. It is a weapon, Elias. A power written into my bloodline, born in only one heir every 1,000 years. Anyone who looks at me, truly sees me, loses their will. They cannot disobey. They will give everything, do anything I ask, no matter the cost. They will kill for me, die for me, burn worlds for me, and they will think it is love. The weight of her words sank into the silence. That's why they fear you, Elias said slowly. That's why they hide me, she corrected. Because once someone sees my face, they are no longer themselves. They become mine. And in the wrong hands, I could be a weapon that destroys civilizations. Elias glanced at the chain binding them. And you think that will happen to me if I see you? She looked away. It has happened to everyone else. No one has resisted. Not once. He stepped closer, his voice low but steady. Then maybe I'll be the first. Her masked gaze locked back onto his. Do not be so sure. The bond we've started will make it even harder to resist. You will feel what I feel, want what I want, and once that happens, you will no longer be able to tell if your choices are your own. Elias didn't flinch. I've been controlled. Before I broke free, I can do it again. You think this is the same, she said sharply. This is not chains or orders or fear. This is desire, and desire is harder to kill than any enemy. Another blast shook the chamber. Somewhere nearby, a section of the palace collapsed with a roar. Elias could hear the attackers regrouping. They didn't have much time. He holstered his weapon for a moment. So that's why no one dares to bond with you. They're not afraid of dying. They're afraid of losing themselves. Her voice softened. Yes. And yet you called for a bond today. She hesitated. Because the council forces me. They believe I should have a partner powerful enough to control my effect. But in truth, they hope no one accepts, so they can keep me hidden forever. Elias took a deep breath. Then why didn't you push me away? For the first time, she didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned her head slightly, as if listening to something far away. Then she said, almost too softly to hear, because you walked toward me without hesitation. No one has done that in my life. I needed to see. Why, the chain between them pulsed with a faint golden light, stronger now. Elias could feel her thoughts brushing his again, sharper this time, tinged with something like curiosity. And fear dots from the breach. A voice rang out, cold, mechanical. Princess Serenia, surrender now, or watch your human die. A figure stepped into view, taller than the rest, clad in black armor traced with crimson. His visor glowed like molten glass. Elias could feel the air shift around him, a commander. The princess turned to Elias, her voice a whisper only he could hear. If you fall here, I will have no choice but to use my face. And if I use it, I will own every mind in this city. Elias's jaw tightened. Then we don't let that happen. He drew his weapon again, ready for the fight too. Come, the masked commander raised a clawed hand, and the soldiers behind him spread out, weapons aimed. Elias glanced once at the princess. If this is a weapon they fear, maybe it's time they learned why humans don't scare easy. The chain between them flared bright as the battle began anew, and somewhere in the heat of it, the choice to reveal her face grew closer. The chamber was no longer a sanctuary, it was a trap closing in. The obsidian commander advanced, his steps slow, confident, each one echoing like a drumbeat of inevitability. Behind him, his soldiers fanned out, their weapons glowing with that same sickly green light that made the air itself feel poisoned. Elias shifted his stance, keeping the princess behind him. The chain binding them glimmered faintly, the glow pulsing faster as if reacting to the danger. The commander's voice was cold and deliberate. Step aside, human. You cannot protect her. You are not strong enough. Elias gave a thin smile. Funny, I've been told that before. By people who aren't around anymore. The commander didn't react to the taunt. He simply raised a hand, and the front line of soldiers opened fire. Elias moved instantly, pulling the princess with him as they dove behind the shattered crystal wall. Energy bolts tore into the stone, exploding it into sharp fragments. Elias returned fire, every shot placed with precision, but for every enemy that fell. 2 more took their place. This won't hold, Elias said between bursts. We'll be surrounded in seconds. The princess's voice entered his mind. Sharper now, urgent. There is another way. You mean the mask, he replied, without turning. Yes, he shook his head. You said it would take away my will. Her presence in his mind softened for a heartbeat. If it saves your life, will it matter? He paused. It will matter to me. Another blast struck near their cover, the shockwave forcing him to shield her with his body. His ears rang from the impact. The commander's voice cut through the smoke. "This is your last chance. Give her to us, and you can walk away." Elias rose, just enough to fire a quick shot, forcing the commander back. Not happening. The princess's hand gripped his wrist, not in fear, but with decision. Her voice was firm now. "Elias, listen to me. If they take me alive, they will use me to enslave entire worlds. Millions will die, and it will be because you tried to protect my choice instead of my life." His jaw clenched. "And if I see you," she didn't blink, "then you'll belong to me. Completely." Their eyes locked, his visible, hers hidden behind the smooth silver mask. In that moment, Elias made his choice. "Do it," he said. The princess stepped in front of him, the chain between them glowing like molten gold. "Now." She lifted her hands to the mask. Elias's heartbeat slowed, each thud heavy in his chest. The world seemed to dim, the sound of battle fading, the movement of soldiers slowing as if caught in deep water. The mask rose. The first thing he saw was her chin, smooth, flawless, catching the faintest light. Then her lips, curved, perfect, drawing him in without a word. His breath caught as the mask lifted further, revealing more and more. The glow from the chain exploded outward in a blinding wave. The force slammed into the soldiers like a physical wall, throwing them across the room. The commander dropped to his knees, his weapon clattering to the floor. Every hostile I turned toward her and froze. She stood barefaced now, her beauty like something carved from starlight itself. It was not human, not alien. It was something beyond. Elias felt his mind stretch toward her like metal drawn to a magnet. A rush of heat and clarity surged through him, filling every corner of his thoughts with her presence. And then something unexpected happened. He stayed himself. The pull was there, overwhelming, intoxicating, but it didn't drown him. Instead, it burned alongside his own will, sharp and alive. She was in his mind, yes, but she wasn't controlling it. Her eyes widened in shock. "You resist." "Looks that good," he said, breathing hard, "and I'm still me. That's a first, huh?" A flicker of something, respect, maybe even hope, passed over her face. She turned toward the enemy, and when she spoke, her voice was no longer soft. It was command. "Kneel." Every soldier dropped instantly, weapons clattering to the floor. The commander struggled, his visor flickering, but even he bowed in the end. The air was thick with the weight of her power. Elias stepped beside her. "What now?" She glanced at him, her bare face unhidden, and for the first time she smiled a dangerous knowing smile. "Now they will carry our message." She lowered her voice so only he could hear. "And you, Elias Kane, you are bound to me now, forever." The chain between them flared one final time before fading into nothing. The bond was sealed. Outside, the fires still burned, the city still screamed, but in the grand hall a new reality had begun. The human who dared had survived the sight that broke all others. And as they walked forward together, Elias knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, the galaxy would never be the same.